Obehi, thanks for having me. My name is Derick Ofodirinwa. I am a researcher by profession. I call myself a student teacher. At all times, I am researching the Igbo cosmological system and history, and then presenting it, what I learn and what I deduce to the rest of the world. I work on documentaries, videos, things like that. I'm also the founder for Gedu.me. Now, Gedu.me is a full language and custom school where we take a very unique approach to teaching in order to effectively teach the Igbo language and customs in the Igbo culture. So anybody who is interested in reconnecting with their culture, or if they plan on visiting Nigeria, just different, whichever reason brings you to the table, we get you ready for the success in that way. So
Where actually were you born? Because right now, tell me where you were born and where exactly you are right now.
yeah, I was born in a very small, very white town called Kearney, Nebraska. I was born there. I was raised partly there, and then I was raised partly at home. So I think there's a mix of all of that in maybe my the way I speak. But at the moment, I'm currently in Houston, Texas. I am visiting family for the Memorial Day week, and we're having a holiday here in the U.S. And then from there, yeah.
Okay. So, have you ever been to Nigeria? Have you ever lived in Nigeria? Tell me about your experience here. Okay, no, first, tell me about your experience there as you were growing up as a young boy there in Nebraska.
Yeah. Uh, it was a lot better than people would assume. When we were in Nebraska, my parents went to school at the University of Nebraska. And I don't know how much you follow Nigerian politics, but there was this politician from Imo State, which is my home state, called Sam Mbakwe, and or was it Sam Buck? One of them, one of the big guys, and he had gone to the University of Nebraska for college. And so when he came back and he was so successful in life, everybody in my area was seeing the University of Nebraska as like what you would now see Harvard and Oxford as, right? So there was this flood of students that applied to go there, and many of them got accepted into the Kearney campus. Kearney is a town like if Kearney has 8,000 people, I'd be surprised. But maybe 8,000 or so people, small college town. Then all of a sudden you get this influx of Nigerians coming out of nowhere. Most of them were chased off, but my parents stayed. So I ended up growing up in Nebraska. For a lot of times, like for example, we lived in one town where we were the only black family. We had I was the only black male child, I guess, for a minute, not counting my brothers. We had some Zimbabweans move in, and I remember that being like a big deal to me at the time, but they left very quickly because they have sense. And, but in the middle of living there, we lived back home in Nigeria for about 3 to 4 years. Um, 3 to 4 years, and entirely in the village. So I've been hopping from village to village on two continents. So yeah.
That's interesting. That means you have opportunity to be able to learn a lot of things now, no? Because a lot of the richness is actually in the village. Okay, but the village sometimes do not have the money, but a lot of the code of life is actually is shrined there in the village. So your first time in Africa, your first time in Nigeria, in Imo State in this case, tell me about how old were you there and what did you tell me about the experience?
Yeah, I was. How old was I when we landed? Probably about 4 or 5, roughly that age. I remember us coming in. I remember when we were in Kearney, my dad sat us down and was telling us that, oh, it's like a paradise and da da da, all these, he's telling us all these things, and we're going to be treated so well and all this stuff. And so we landed, and I remember you're very young, so you don't remember too much from like that first initial day. But my first day, I remember very well. One of the things that stuck out to me was we had gummy worms, and there was this old woman, one of my old aunties, like very old woman. She thought that, maybe she thought they were real worms or something. But I remember it being very funny to us that she would run when she'd see them. Right. So from the beginning, we were just running crazy. It was, when you're in the village, you have a lot of freedom. So there's a lot of freedom. So just running everywhere, climbing everything, doing whatever. It's one of the best places for a small child to be, right? So because you're not thinking of the things that the place doesn't have, you're thinking about all of the things it does have, such as an abundance of kids, um, lots of adventure places to go, things like that. Go inside the bush, look for this and look for that, that kind of thing. So I was, I acclimatized very quickly and very well as a child. And then, after, when you first get there, you have you get the new person hospitality. Then after that, it was, I was, fighting people and doing all of the normal village activities. So, but we were there for about between the ages of about 4 to 8, about 4 to 8. And so by the time I was 8, we moved back to America. And I remember by the time I was moved back to America, I'd completely forgotten what it was like in the US. The only connection I had were VHS videos my dad used to send back with different movies and cartoons and things like that on them. And so, like, for example, I had forgotten, like, we don't drink milk too often at home, or it's not as much as they do in America, anyways, unless it's like powdered milk. So I had forgotten what milk tasted like, and I remember thinking like it was gonna taste like candy. Like they make it look so good on TV. I remember when I landed, I drank it, learned that I was lactose intolerant, learned that it didn't taste good. I remember coming to America, everything smelling like plastic. I don't know. It's a very strange thing one of these little strange things that I pick up. But I remember everything smelling like when you open a toy. That's when I was a child. The smell of the country was like when you open a toy. That smell, that kind of thing. Just you remember little things that are pertinent to a little kid. But yeah, the experience was an experiment in acclimatizing very fast to radically different.
Okay, now, how did you get started with this project relating to Igbo culture and Igbo cosmology? Because these are some of the things that we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, so I have a YouTube channel called The Medicine Show, and what I do is I go into Igbo spirituality, cosmology, and so forth. It is very hard for me to say this is the origin point or where this is where it began, because by the time I started, it felt like an accumulation of things that had been building over a while, right? So one of the first, if I want to take it back to my interest and so forth, was in the village. Um, I was fascinated by masquerades. I was very into masquerades. I was just fascinated by them. I wanted to know everything that was going on about them. I was trying to deduce meaning. I remember I was pretty young when I found out that there's a masquerade we have called Ekeleke, and I figured out that it's supposed to be some kind of bird. And I felt like the smartest person in the world for figuring that out and things like that. Because they don't tell you. You experience it, and then after a while, you start seeing things when your mind matures. And so was masquerades. When we were younger, we used to do one called Witchem, where it's very similar to what in the West we would call Halloween, where children would make their own masquerade and they would go door to door and dance, and then you receive money and that kind of thing. And I remember me and my cousin Emeka, who we reincarnate from the same person, and I can explain that later. We reincarnate from the same person, and we always had the same interests. So we were both into this witch and thing. We were both into what we call Ukushi Manjala. I'm saying it incorrectly, but it's like a bottle cap soccer. I don't know if you've ever played that. We're both very into the same things, and so him and I would just kind of explore these things together and go door to door with our witch and all that stuff. And then I come to the US, of course you don't have those things around you, but I'm constantly reading history. I'm constantly reading about these different topics and so forth.